Hello, everybody. Welcome to the WrestleWatch podcast, the only podcast that covers the world of free agency in professional wrestling. I am Doug.
And I'm Ryan here. How you doing, Doug? I think you had a late night last night, right?
Yeah, I went to the Black Label Pro show in Chicago, so it was good. Miu versus Kevin Koo was fantastic. Tom Lawler versus Matt Makowski was also fantastic. Just a good night overall.
Mhm.
Um, Good night, and a good way to top off kind of a crummy week.
Oh,
I
I'm
had,
sorry.
well, it's just like, okay, I in February my above range microwave went out, which is
Mhm.
fine. I had that replaced. And last week, I say about 2 weeks ago, my fridge started to slowly die.
Oh, God.
And it was just like it wasn't keeping stuff colder anymore. So I had to get that replaced. And I don't need to go into specifics, but it was a whole ordeal that literally took 2 weeks to get it in.
Yeah.
And then the day after that was delivered, the front of my oven, the glass like front of the oven, just like shattered. I
Oh.
don't know how it happened. No one was in the kitchen. It just like happened.
Oh,
So
wow.
then I had to have a stove delivered. So over the past 4 months, I've essentially just replaced every single kitchen appliance I have.
Oh, wow.
So I haven't, it's a nice looking kitchen now, I'll say that, but you know, would have been nice to spread that out a little bit.
Yeah, maybe to
Yeah.
other rooms in your house or like on purpose, like from the
Yeah.
get-go.
Yeah, just on or well, just spread it out like on time wise, so I don't have to make all these giant purchases all at once.
Mhm.
Yeah. But anyway, how about you?
It was a pretty nothing week for me, to be quite honest. I've just been working, and that's
I
about it. It's nothing really interesting.
I love for a nothing week. Jeez.
Yeah.
Although
Well,
I'm in the summer now, so I don't really work much in the summer. So
okay.
I guess listen, if it was gonna happen, I had to deal with all this. I guess this is now a good time for it to happen.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything new. I mean, the local brewery just got a Godzilla pinball machine, but whatever. That's the
Listen,
big news for me.
are you a big pinball guy?
Yeah, yeah. I do pin some balls from time to time.
But
Um,
I had a uncle who had a pinball machine in his garage, and that was always like the best thing. Like every holiday, we'd go over there and we play pinball. And for some reason, that machine, I
mhm.
always try to look for it online. I can never find it, just because I can't remember what it was called. I just tried to describe it to people, and and type it in searches. I can never find it. So one day I will find that pinball machine.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so we do have some things to go over today. Obviously, we have the tier list that we need to talk about and update. There's a couple other things that are going on in the world in terms of free agency, but there's not a whole lot of substantive things that we could really discuss yet. There's a lot of
Yeah.
smoke, but not a lot of fires at this time.
Yeah, so in general, right now, WWE seems to be in a period where they're having a few people's contracts be coming up. They've been there's been a lot of discussion in the media in the meta media, I suppose is the way of putting it also about where these stories are coming from and how accurate we can determine they can be because of the sourcing. And that kind of how the committee was looking at some of these votes on the tier list this week for some of the folks that were up. We had a few people that were up that were WWE currently signed folks, and like for example, here's a good example. We had Natalia up this week for a vote, didn't move her up or down. But there was a report that said, she's still trying to work out negotiations. Said that she might get interest from other places, but the source on the article, it seemed like the only source, it was from Fightful Select. The only source seemed to be just WWE sources. So it's hard to, oh, and then it said further that they couldn't even get comment from AEW. So it seems like some of these articles that are saying, hey, this person is seeming like they're going to be leaving WWE possibly, or maybe they'll resign, who knows, but they're going to get interest from other places. The source for the interest in other places half the time right now is just WWE internal people. So it's a little bit hard to gauge how likely they are to leave WWE, if that makes sense. If I made that uh concise there. I know it was a little rambly, but hopefully it was concise.
I think we got it. I do think it's interesting that AEW isn't saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if that means anything one way or the other, because, in one sense, it may be a thing they don't really have any, if it, let's say it is just WWE leaking contract names to people that they're pretty sure are sticking around, which it could be. I don't know. I'm not saying that's necessarily what it is, but if you're AEW, do you have a benefit? Does it benefit you in any way to talk about it? I don't know.
I think it might not benefit you to talk about it. Especially because, for example, in the example of Natalia, the question is, oh yeah, the Owen Cup is coming up. So questions become like, when's the Owen coming up? When's Natalia's contract going to be up? Do you guys have any thoughts about having her in the Owen Cup? And well, when she's still in a window of it's legally dubious to call it an exclusive contract window and all those kinds of things. It depends on what the contract at the current moment says about discussing future contracts with other parties, blah blah blah. Contract tampering is something that's far more prevalent in organized unionized sports than it is in wrestling. But that aside, I would say that it's not behooving to Tony Khan, if he is interested in Natalia, to not even be able to put a contract down on the table and just be talking to her and talking to the media like, yeah, we're interested in Natalia, all the while she's able just to walk across the hallway in this, imaginary hallway and just say, hey, so this is what Tony Khan's offering. It seems interested. Can you, up the number a little bit? I'm totally cool with saying. So I think it's in his interest to wait it out until these people are actually like released, until he actually says anything. Now, it also was, we have a Becky Lynch on the tier list as well, also in D tier along with
Mm-hmm.
that's another one where people have been asking, like, why isn't anybody talking about Becky Lynch's contract? It seems like it just went radio silent. And like the thing is, like, it's probably not in anybody's interest between WWE or AEW to talk about it out loud, because you're probably going to want a surprise debuter if either company, So it's one of those things where sometimes the lack of news isn't because nothing is happening. It could just mean that something is happening and nobody wants it to get out.
Yeah, I think that sounds accurate. That sounds right. And I think one of the things that's going to be fun to watch is how AEW reacts when if one of these don't resign.
Yeah.
So let's say Natalia doesn't resign. Then we'll see if they talk, or if someone talks close to them. Because I do think I think I'll say this. If you are AEW and you know that these people are in a fake free agency,
Mm-hmm.
it might be beneficial to say to maybe like throw that out there that, hey, we haven't talked to this person. We're not planning to talk to this person. I don't, maybe that just pisses people off. I don't know.
Yeah.
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 And I'm just thinking out loud here. So I guess we'll see where this goes. But, I guess in the meantime, what we can do is go over the tier list for the week, and because there's going to be some
Yes.
people that we discussed that are in that camp.
Yes, there will be. And we can start up at the top at, well, essentially half the top tiers have not changed really this week. So we'll just go through, and if there's any updates, we'll mention them to you all. S tier, these are the people that we think are going to be imminently debuting for a company. We have Camille, Jacob Fatu, Motor City Machine Guns, and Eric Rowan. Nothing has really changed with any of those folks, I don't think.
Nope.
A tier is supposed to be for likely jumps, and right now we don't have anybody in A tier. B tier are for probable jumps. Right now, it is grizzled young veterans Katsuhiko Nakajima and Ricky Starks. I don't think there's really any updates on them, right?
Not that I could think of, no.
Okay, so then down C tier, this is where we start. We finally find some people. Finally, um, we have Matt Hardy, Sheamus, Cameron Grimes, Hikuleo, Speedball, Mike Bailey, Mustafa Ali, Jeff Hardy, and the Von Erichs. Now they both moved up from D tier to C tier. How about we start off with Jeff Hardy because he obviously worked with somebody else that's been in C tier for a while, Matt Hardy. What are your thoughts about Jeff Hardy there, Doug?
I think that makes a lot of sense to move him up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't, once again, we're going to play the game. I don't remember where I put him, but I might have
Oh,
put
this
him at,
is we need like a theme song for this segment
yeah, I
of
know.
which way did Doug vote? Ba, 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 ba.
I'm fairly certain I voted all the way up to B tier on him, if I remember correctly.
You got it exactly on the mark, Doug. It was a B tier vote from Doug.
Yeah, and I'm standing by that. I'm fine with it being at C tier, but just based off of a lot of the tea leaves, we see Matt Hardy kind of jumping and getting out of there. It's pretty clear he's leaving.
Yeah,
I
I would
feel.
say that it's definite that he's going to leave AEW. The question is if he's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think he would go to TNA, but frankly, I think I really am putting my I think I said this, either last week or the week before. I'm really putting a lot of my eggs in the both of them are going back to WWE basket.
Yeah.
I don't
I
it just seems like it makes a lot of sense. I think that there's a lot of I think there's money to still be made with Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy, and I think there's a lot of WWE fans who would like to see that reunion happen, especially under uh this new Triple H Nick Khan regime of WWE. So I think that alone kind of is a fresher concept for a lot of fans. So
mhm.
I think that's a very real possibility, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit hard though because didn't he? I mean, the reasons for how and why he left WWE weren't exactly for I want to go somewhere else reasons. Um, so it's still there's still that thought in my back of my head of like maybe WWE doesn't want to touch him um, with his issues that he's had over the years, but I can't I can't disagree with you that they would fit in pretty well with WWE's current look and everything.
Hmm.
And I think that they would have fun with doing a nostalgia retirement run there.
I really feel like he would. I think WWE would still grab. I don't think they care. I'll put that out there. I don't think they'll care. That's where I'll leave it at that. And frankly, how many people have they fired and then for various reasons and then just brought them back? It
Yeah,
happens
that's
a lot.
also happens a lot. Yeah, and so Matt Hardy also he's been appearing in TNA now for quite some time. I think right. It was what since January that he's been mucking it up there. Um,
He's been there. I think he's been in TNA more this year than he's been in AEW. I don't remember that exactly, but I'm pretty sure,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
If
um,
not the whole year.
but yeah, it's been an interesting it's been interesting to see how him and Mustafa Ali are they kind of settled in at TNA. It feels like I don't know. That might be like a little bit third party of a look at it, but it feels like they've kind of just settled there.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I still don't know what this new TNA is.
Yeah.
And I think that's partly just due to the so many people leaving, all the recent cuts they had, which I don't necessarily think is a big deal, but
Hmm.
come that in and of itself. But with everything else that's going on and looking at it as a whole, there's a lot of shifts and moving parts, which maybe is also tied to this TNA WWE crossover thing that we'll be talking about in a little bit as well. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
So who's the
I
next person we have to look at?
Well, the next person that we have are the Von Erichs. So they were down in D tier previously, and now they are moved up to C tier. This week, there was a little bit of a report that came out saying that it seems likely that they're going to be going to AEW. Doug, how were you? How do you think you voted on the Von Erichs?
I think I voted C tier.
You voted D tier.
D tier. Okay.
Do you want to change your vote now in your mind
No,
at least?
no, because I was going back and forth between the two. So here's the thing. I don't know if I see them because okay, they said they may be going to AEW, which I think is possible, but I also kind of think that it could be just like for the residency, like in Texas.
Hmm.
I don't know. And it could be like still a tryout. Like, would it surprise me if they went? No, but I still kind of stayed at D tier just because I wanted to see a little bit more. And I don't know. I mean, I watched a bit of them in MLW,
Hmm.
and they weren't exactly blowing me away. And
Yeah.
I don't know. And the fact that they've been free agents this long, I think says a lot. Granted, at the time they were also living in Hawaii still, so that made it a little bit more difficult to kind of get booked. But I'm going to play a wait and see with them. So I think I just kept them at D.
Yeah, I voted C because it's also a little bit wait and see for me, but at the same time, I think that the smoke and the winds have been blowing in the certain direction, and it seems like that direction is them showing up again in AEW in some kind of longer term capacity. I don't know if we could call it longer than just the Texas residency, but it seems like they're gonna at least show up for that.
Hmm.
So that's why I feel C about it. Kind of makes me think about well, people are hopeful. I think is the best way of putting it. People are hopeful when grizzled young veterans appeared in AEW that maybe they're going to stick around, and it was just one match. So I'm not sure if there's like as much of a ground swelling of these are our favorite people, the Von Erichs, about them showing up in AEW, but I enjoyed them. So it's a little bit different. I understand that comparing the two about how people are reacting to the possibilities, but I do think that I think there is probable cause for thinking that the Von Erichs will just be around for those Texas dates.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't claim to know, but I do. I will keep an eye on that one.
So
That's all.
down in D tier are our we're just gonna phrase it as improbable jumps. It's people that are most likely going to stay what they're doing right now, either stay in their current promotion or stay being a freelancer. Right now in D tier, we have Malachi Black, Dustin Rhodes, Jinder Mahal, Tekla, Kevin Owens, Natalia, who we talked about a little bit before, Danhausen, Shelton Benjamin, Alex Windsor, Becky Lynch, and then the two new people or new things in D tier. Let's just start first by just talking about Lio Rush, who went up from F tier to D tier.
So yeah, I think Lio Rush has moved up a bit, especially just because he's had these AEW showcases, and both of them he's looked very well. He looked very good.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's very possible that he could sign,
Mm-hmm.
but I also think that Lio Rush has spent the last, you know, five, no, probably longer than that. I mean, he spent a long time like burning a lot of bridges with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different people. And I'm not just talking WWE and AEW. I'm talking like people on the indies and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of uh, goodwill that needs to be rebuilt. And I think he's trying to do that.
Yeah.
But he's also someone like who is very wishy-washy in terms of what he wants to do in professional wrestling. I feel like he's retired like three times and then come back. So that's the other thing. So I don't know how much of a commitment people are going to give him or want to give him just because of all this. So we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. I think part of it also is that the reasoning for him having to leave Japan wasn't necessarily a I want to go or they don't want me here. It was extenuating circumstances kind of for why he was not going to stay in New Japan for a long time. Um, and the way that he was being presented so far in these AEW matches that he had was kind of like, this is Forbidden Door season. Look at this guy that's from New Japan. Isn't that fun? Although, of course, he does have, history in AEW as well. Um, so something that we did do this week was before we polled on the people from the committee for the ballot this week, we did do I guess a clarification vote on Lio Rush just to get an understanding of what we're talking about when we're saying the odds of him jumping somewhere, and just so people that are listening understand. For Lio Rush, we're considering that he is fully a freelancer at this point. So if you were to sign with New Japan full time or stay there full time again, we would consider that a jump for the purposes of the tier list.
Yeah.
And just backing up to Matt Hardy that we talked about a little bit earlier. Still, right now at this point, the committee is feeling that it's too soon to say that he's kind of totally a free agent, as he put it. So him signing to anywhere except for AEW, we're going to consider a jump. If he were to go back to AEW, we're going to consider that a return. In which case, we would move him down the tier list. But just wanted to do some housekeeping there, just for the listeners' purposes.
Yeah. And I was just checking too. Like Lio Rush has only worked New Japan one date in 2024. So and that
Yeah,
and that was that resurgence show. So
yeah.
it would
He was
absolutely be a jump, I think, if
yeah
he
it
did sign.
yeah it was for like the last 2 years though. He was like in Japan and he's a full-time member of Chaos and all those kinds of things. So my personal view was it feels like it would be him returning to New Japan. But for the purposes of the tier list, we're gonna call it as a jump because there's been enough time in between his last stint in New Japan.
Yes.
So the other thing that's in D tier, and the reason why I'm saying other thing, is something that's a little bit of a throwback for something that we used to have on the tier list. A couple months ago, we used to have a thing on the tier list that said AEW to CMLL. And it was sometimes a little bit hard to describe what that meant. But essentially, what it was that there was a lot of smoke to AEW switching their partnership in Mexico between AAA and CMLL. And it finally, bubbled and boiled up in last October. They started having I think that was Mystico came to AEW for the first time, and then earlier this year it boiled over to the point of a bunch of CMLL guys are coming over, and BCC and Willow Nightingale are going down to Arena Mexico. So that was the point when we removed that from the tier list. They released statements saying that they have an official partnership. So with that context, we have added WWE with TNA to the tier list.
Who who
So
who
go
said
ahead.
they have sorry, I missed what you said. You cut out for a second. Someone said they do have an official partnership or don't have an official partnership.
That was AEW and CMLL.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, I was giving the context of what we're talking about here when we're going to be talking about this WWE X TNA thing being on the tier list. I'm just giving context for the listeners of what going up the tier list will mean for this or going down.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Yeah, so if this thing becomes an official relationship, of course, some people in our committee have pointed out that WWE doesn't really do partnerships of equals. Uh, so that might be why some people are giving this pause. Another reason, of course, is that so far it's just been Jordynne Grace showing up in NXT. So who knows if that means anything more than just one talent being exchanged for a little short period of time. Um, Doug, how are you feeling about the seeds of this possible WWE TNA relationship?
So here's the thing. I do genuinely think that there is some smoke to this fire, so to speak, in terms of what's going on with TNA and WWE. However, I don't know that it's beyond Jordynne Grace at this
Hmm.
point. I will say this, I think it's next week is the TNA pay-per-view in Chicago. Was it Against All Odds?
Yeah, it's their special. I think
Special.
that they do quarterly specials or something. I can't remember, but they have an event that's
Yeah.
named Against All Odds.
So Jordynne Grace has a open challenge, I believe, on that show,
Yes.
with an unknown opponent. It's if it is someone from NXT, that could be a signal of something. But once again, we're still looking at a situation where the only person involved in this is Jordynne Grace,
Yeah. It
which
it, it
isn't
makes it
exactly a forbidden door situation where we're seeing matches up and down the card with all these
yeah.
different but listen, this is I still think this is still something,
Hmm.
and it's something I want to keep an eye on, but I do think that we are I th- I think we're starting to see something. And I do think that there is a bit of, especially when you take into the fact that we're also seeing the tea leaves with something with in Japan, with possibly something with Cyber Fight, as they kind of mentioned that. You see a little bit here with All Japan. So it very or and obviously we have the Marigold situation as well. So
Yeah.
I do not discount this idea that we're starting to see WWE see, kind of the buzz and success that they've had with Forbidden Door, and also just working with and seeing, AEW expand their partnerships with more and more promotions, and then
Hmm.
WWE feeling like they don't want to get left behind, and so they're
Yeah.
making an attempt to kind of build something up, and obviously TNA would take that. But I did see the report. Obviously, the TNA was a little disappointed with the ratings that they were
Yeah.
expecting more of a bump, just because I think that the talk was when they did the partnership with AEW did kind of help them build up a little bit, but then also they actually had like AEW talent on TNA.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now we're in the phase of Don Callis showing up in AEW. We're not at the level of Kenny Omega is going to
Yeah.
TNA. Like no, that's not meant as like a dig at Jordynne Grace. I just mean like right now, just one TNA talent has gone to NXT, and that's it. You
Hmm.
know, it's not we don't have Trick Williams showing up in TNA right now. If
Yeah.
we're looking at it as an NXT level relationship, also that's the other factor in this is like if it's just NXT and TNA, that's kind of sad,
Hmm.
I guess. Like yeah, to Kenny Omega, and like it doesn't feel as major if it's like Trick Williams. No offense to Trick Williams, but he's no Kenny Omega, as a star power.
And then I'll throw this in there too. What do you think are the chances that this all doesn't lead to actually a partnership, but it eventually leads to
Yeah.
Jordynne Grace leaving TNA and going to WWE?
So these are the two other paths that I see. Yeah, there are three paths. There's or four paths. One, nothing happens. Two, it's a partnership. Yay, everybody wins. Three, exactly what you just said. Jordynne Grace just is like it's only Jordynne Grace, back at the Royal Rumble. Who was it? Jordynne Grace. Who is it now? Jordynne Grace. It kind of feels like it's possible that maybe this is like a deal to make it so that, she's gonna leave, but we don't want her to you know, leave on her back entirely where we want to, pump up TNA as she's leaving. So can we do some, commiserate dates and everything like that? Like maybe it's like the Julia situation essentially, where we know that she's going to go to NXT when she wraps up at Marigold, and it's kind of like, hey, so now you're gonna go and watch Marigold, right? Before she leaves, right? That I think that is a possibility. Like if we're going to like give it odds though, I would say that right now I feel, that's like maybe a 20% possibility.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think it's one of those things where we could where I would not be stunned if we see them eventually grab Jordynne Grace, and then that's the end of this TNA partnership. And
Yeah.
not to disparage anyone from TNA, but there's not really any massive names that I could see,
Well,
WWE really wanting. I mean, I
yeah.
don't feel like at this point, if they wanted Speedball, they would have got Speedball.
Yeah, that's kind of like the biggest, I guess, Moose, Speedball. Suppose Steve Macklin or Mike Santana could have a little bit of cachet to them as well. But some of these other names, or the Rascals, ABC, they would be fun to watch. In NXT doing some tag action,
Yeah.
totally. But at the same time, some of these other people, it's like Matt Hardy and Mustafa Ali and Nick Nemeth, and you're like, wait a second,
Yeah,
feel
that's
like
not
I've
much of
seen
an
you.
invasion at this
I,
point. It's like all the people we released are invading.
Yeah, it's like when the WCW invasion thing happened, and it was like, wait, Steve Austin, why are you going over to that team?
Yeah, this is that's my thought. So
Um,
once again,
uh,
we'll find out, I guess.
so the other option that I have here is it's not, I don't know if you call it a chaos option, but it's the I guess Zaslav option of things. It feels like it's possible that they're trying to cut costs ahead of like a sale or a merger of TNA at the same time. Like
Hmm.
they're letting go of staff without a plan to replace them. The parent company's folks are taking over those duties, or they're just going to plan on outsourcing them. So, for example, they fired the person that was booking their venues. So the guy that, for example, booked this upcoming Against All Odds and at what is it, Cicero? Well,
Yes.
he's gone. So somebody in Anthem's front office is now trying to book the places for TNA, and his grand idea is, get this, they're going to try to move to Full Sail. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And allegedly, by the reports, Full Sail doesn't want them. So it feels like that's like a plan to simplify your production costs. There is talk this week about the tape library being sold. Of right now, they're loaning out someone to another program, to NXT. They're moving away from full time contracts to pay per appearance deals, so there's less money on the books for them when, if and when they were to sell or merge. Um, they're wanting to move the production to the same city as NXT is produced. There's a few things in here that feel like, yeah, maybe they should have sold to Scott Demore, but maybe somebody in Anthem's office were like, oh yeah, we could, if somebody's, Scott's willing to buy it, there has to be even a bigger fish to try to buy it. We should try to, you know, pump up the value of the brand, decrease the cost, and then we can sell it off. That's another possibility with what's going on here with TNA.
And who are you indicating would be a potential buyer?
WWE.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. I don't necessarily, I could see this. I really can. This would not shock me at all.
Yeah, and it kind of goes hand in hand with, if they're going to be having NXT on network television, and there's the possibility of them shifting NXT's, like the theory of NXT from being developmental to being a little bit more third brandy. Well, they kind of need some other thing to fill the gap then, maybe. And maybe that's a way that WWE might be looking at TNA as like their companion brand to NXT.
Yeah, almost like trying to their like what ROH is to AEW, TNA could be that to WWE.
Yeah, or it could be also like, we have like our main roster Raw versus SmackDown, and then we have our kind of, developmental, mid carder people that were, looking to get up there, a little bit more indie flavor kind of tiers, their TNA and NXT. It could be that too.
And let's be honest, TNA actually has a genuine, legit TV deal now. So
They
it
do.
could be a
Yeah.
thing where it's like, well, why would we keep this as a developmental when we actually can make genuine money with it now?
Yeah.
And so, and have three brands, three equal brands. I don't necessarily think discount that. And frankly, if I was running the company, I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah, and it does also lead into how they're acting with the foreign promotions, also with things like Marigold, of like, yeah, we need another kind of pipeline,
Yeah.
of talent if we're going to be, pumping up NXT into quasi third brand levels again. We can't like just have all the performance center crap going to NXT. Now we're gonna have to actually put some people like, well, like Jordynne Grace. She's not a performance center person. She is a full-fledged star. So we need people like that to go in there. We need to sign people like Ethan Page, who he has had a long history in wrestling at this point. He's fully developed. There's no denying that he has the chops and the ring skills. Why are they signing him? Because they need that kind of person on the roster. So that's my tinfoil about it all.
I would not discount that, and I would not be surprised if that's exactly what happens. But we will see.
We will see. We do have F tier to go here, but I kind of want to take a quick break so I can refill some coffee before we go into F tier. And I know that you wanted to talk about one person that's not even on the tier list this week. So is that cool with you, Doug?
I think a coffee break makes a lot of sense right now.
All right, cool. We will be right back with the WrestleWatch podcast. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the WrestleWatch podcast, the only podcast where we discuss free agency in the world of professional wrestling. Unlike those other guys that have other segments about other things, we only talk about free agency. We also talk about other things too, but don't worry about it. This is the only one.
We're the only
I'm
one.
Ryan.
And I'm Doug. And now we're going to talk about free agency in professional wrestling. All right, so where we left off, we finished up going over the D tier. So now we're going to go over the final tier, which is the F tier.
Yeah.
And I'll read through what we have right now. So for F tier, we currently have Sari, Utami Hayashishita, Hook, El Phantasmo, Nikki Bella, Gigi Dolan, Buddy Matthews, Kaito Kiyomiya, Matt Cardona, Michael Oku, Chad Gable, Jake Hager, and Dijak.
Yes, we're finally Dijaking.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know if there was much updates about anybody else here other than, of course, Dijak's on the tier list.
He is. Yes, this has been an ongoing saga of him being up for votes and never actually getting on the tier list because for various reasons, just people didn't think he was going to jump or whatever. He is now finally on the F tier.
Yeah, to speak to that a little bit more, they're kind of with other votes that we do, just to peel back the curtain a little bit. Like we have an option that just don't include this person on the tier list, just so that's an option, of course. Usually, sometimes people just like kind of look at that as like another tier, like we've dropped people off the tier list because it doesn't seem like there's a lot going on with them. So let's just like there's a low odds of them going anywhere. With Dijak, there is like it feels like there's two camps of people that just don't feel like he should be on the tier list, that he's the kind of talent that we're watching, and then there are people that are like, well, yeah, he's going to be on the tier list. And well, this week the people that want him on the tier list won out.
Yep. And so he's on there, and I think he's on there appropriately because let's be honest, he's probably going to
I think he's going to
stay.
resign. Yeah.
He's going to resign. He's going to stay, but at this point, he's about his contract's going to be up fairly soon. I don't remember exactly the time frame, but it's soon, and he hasn't resigned yet.
Yeah.
So him having him at F tier, I think, is completely appropriate. But it is F tier, so I think we all assume that he's going to eventually resign and probably continue to be on NXT for another 5 years. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the report that came out recently about it also mentioned that I think that his agent for this is actually was it Mojo Rawley? So which is fun. It was Paragon Talent Group. are representing him. So they've mentioned that they have, they're still discussing possible deals and everything like that between him and WWE. It says that his contract is expected to expire at the end of June. But yeah, I
Yeah.
still just feel like that the odds are of him staying in WWE. It just feels like the right spot for him. It feels like there hasn't really. I, I mean, yeah, some people have pointed out that he's one of those guys that they'll either bring up or take back down to NXT, and it's happened like once or twice now. And it's like, well, maybe he's not going to ever get it up to the main roster. But hey, as we discussed in the last segment, maybe NXT isn't going to be viewed as developmental for very much longer, and maybe they'll need some people like Dijak or like we've talked before about Ethan Page or Sean Spears on the roster.
And I also think that with him, especially him, I think that he's a guy that could do well elsewhere, but he just feels like he's someone who's going to stick around there for a while. And I do think it's notable that a lot of these like recent people who have like talent agencies and stuff. It's funny to watch the ones who like do have Endeavor as their agents
Yeah,
versus the ones that don't.
yeah,
Like I think Becky Lynch is one who does not have Endeavor,
correct. Yeah,
and she went into free agency. So I don't know if there's because then the ones who do have free, like okay, like Jade Cargill, I know Endeavor is her.
yes, yeah. She signed to Endeavor.
She signed to Endeavor,
Yeah,
so that's something else. I don't know if there's anything to that or smoke to the fire. I assume that they're probably all just doing the best job they can for their clients.
yeah.
But I do question, is there like let's say your talent agency is Endeavor. Like, is there
Mhm.
like a conflict of interest there?
Well, I mean, technically, legally, you're supposed to still have a fiduciary responsibility to your client.
Hmm.
Uh, that's why in the world of live music, you can't be a talent agent and a booking agent at the same time. So, for example, this happened like decades ago where people were, being somebody's personal manager, and they would, or band manager, and they would try to book them for a concert, and they would directly book the concert and do all the contracts. And of course, if you only have one person doing all the contracts for both parties, they can then sneak in little things and little percentages going to them alone, which isn't like a good thing. It's not fiduciarily responsible thing to be representing your client. You're representing yourself at that point, and you're trying to get a kickback for yourself. So under California law, and that's now because of that and where all talent are throughout the country, you have to have a separate booking agent. So you have somebody that's like helping you book the shows and is doing the contracts and is talking between the two camps, between the venues and between the band to make sure that everything is fair and the talent is being represented properly. So legally speaking, if somebody is represented by Endeavor, they're supposed to still have a responsibility to the talent and not to the greater Endeavor sphere of a company. In practice, though, I would not be surprised at all if they are doing sweetheart deals to companies within the Endeavor company bracket. I wouldn't be surprised by that. But I will say legally they should not be.
Yeah. So we'll see. I know that's become my catchphrase lately. It's like every single time it's like, yeah, we'll see. But you know
Yeah.
what? It really that is the world of free agency right now with a lot of these people. It really is just a wait and see.
Yeah.
And but and all we can do is make our best judgments with the tier list and kind of go from there. But I do think that Dijak is sticking around.
Yeah, I think that is the case. Yeah, and something that I felt should be pointed out was it seemed like in this Dijak report from Fightful that they were getting some stuff from Dijak's agent as well. So it was not just a one side they get info from WWE on this one. It didn't feel like that. It felt like, yeah, this is a full report. We're getting multiple angles with this. But Yeah, it does seem like WWE is trying to not make NXT purely just, performance center talent kind of people.
Mhm.
So I think we'll see if Dijak is the kind of person then that they keep down in NXT to try to build up it as not just being 20-year-olds, you know?
That's why we need to have just level up. It just become like its own thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's even said like it looks like that in the Fightful report, Corey Brennan was told, as I believe this is from Dijak's agents, that Dijak was always open to advice to the younger faces in NXT throughout both of his runs in the brand, and he seems to have had a positive relationship with WWE. So I think that he's likely going to stay, but it's worth enough to keep an eye on him. The other thing that we wanted to talk about this week, well, we don't have anything else going on with the tier list, but there was somebody that you wanted to touch on, and that was one Penta El Zero Miedo.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
I feel like there's enough people talking about this recently, even though he didn't get enough for a nomination or for a vote. I think we should at least talk about him.
Yeah.
Um, and that's that because there's a lot of things going on. First of all, there was a report this week that Penta's contract is up in a couple months.
Yeah, it was a couple months, and but what is the source of that
Yeah,
is somebody that's a announcer, I believe, for AAA.
Triple A announcer obviously has ties to Conan, and who's someone who obviously is has not had he's had a frosty relationship with AEW and Tony Khan specifically lately, obviously. And with that, I think that a lot of people kind of like taking that as with a grain of salt at this time.
Yeah.
It was also noted by Lucha Blog this week that Penta has been trying to stay away from doing any work with AAA lately
Yeah.
because he's trying to they're trying to smooth over things with CMLL and make CMLL okay with him doing certain things, whether it's, working Forbidden Door or maybe working with New Japan in various shows. So
Yeah.
I think with that, I think it's I don't think that I would have voted. I would have went for a vote because I do think there's enough, I think, to put him on a tier list personally and at least have the discussion, especially if his contract's up soon. And let's be honest, do I believe that I absolutely believe that WWE is interested in him, like without
Oh,
a doubt.
oh, sure. Yeah.
So with that, we'll see. But it's like I'll say this, he hasn't worked AAA in about 2 months.
Yeah, so this was part of the grander story here beyond Penta. Um, because there was another report this week about I think it was also Lucha Blog reporting about this, and then other folks went and asked about it too, was that CMLL is finally like kind of coming to the table a bit about, okay, so Mexican wrestlers that are not signed and appearing at CMLL, how are we going to work with them with AEW and with New Japan for that matter? How is that going to work out? And the general vibe is if there's somebody that has like cut all ties with CMLL and are not appear I mean, excuse me, cut all ties with AAA and are just like not appearing with AAA whatsoever anymore, CMLL is totally cool with them. So this week, of course, we had Ray Phoenix appearing and wrestling on the same show as CMLL talent. So that is the first step of things. There were some people that they said are question marky, like Rush, but more recent reports since that first one seems to point in the direction that Rush is going to be a-okay to appear on things like Forbidden Door,
Yeah.
which is a big change for Rush, especially for how things went down with his exit there at CMLL. Um,
To
so yeah, go ahead.
to be fair though, they still can't wrestle each other. We haven't gotten that far, but
Correct.
it
We
is
haven't
so it's
gotten
like
that far.
CML talent can't wrestle like someone who's, you know, AAA adjacent.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
but it is a softening of the relationship to say the least.
yeah, and also the text of that Lucha blog report about Penta and AAA, I'm gonna just read it full on. because there's one interesting note here that like it points to me in a certain direction. It says Penta says, of course it does. Penta says the reason for no AAA is he's working on a surprise that he cannot talk about, something internationally he's wanted to do and has not yet achieved in his career. It's very important for Penta to do the right things and not the wrong things to accomplish this. And then, of course, the speculation then is probably something like the G1 or World Tag League, right?
Right.
Like if CMLL is not cool with these like guys like Penta and Phoenix and Rush, or I'm trying to think of other guys like that. Commander, which Commander is currently a AAA champion, so I think that he's like just off the table entirely. But those kinds of guys that have switched to AEW purely at this point, if they're gonna want to do stuff in New Japan, CMLL has to sign off on it, and it seems like that's what Penta's working on, is that kind of a surprise,
Yeah.
which I would love.
Yeah, you know what? I think I think that this is going to be I think this is really really good, and we saw this happen already because we saw how frosty things were between AEW and New Japan right out the bat,
Yeah,
and now that's slowly thawed, and now
yeah,
they have a strong working relationship.
yeah.
And
It's yeah. Go ahead.
I don't think that we're ever going to get to the point where we're going to see like AAA talent and CMLL talent wrestling each other
Oh,
on
definitely not.
AEW.
No.
That's definitely not happening. Do I think that it's possible that we see a ramp up of the CMLL partnership and a ramp down of the AAA partnership? Yeah, I do think that
Yeah,
I think that's likely, to be
yeah,
honest. Like, and frankly, I would not be stunned if it becomes a thing where maybe CML like the I think the best case scenario is CMLL is becomes okay with CMLL talent wrestling former AAA talent that have left AAA.
yeah. That's what I think this is going to point in that direction, especially like with the speculation about Penta and things with like New Japan tournaments. It's like, well, if you're gonna have somebody like Titan in that tournament, or if Mystico is going to do the G1 or something like that, you gotta be okay with those two going up against each other. So like my personal fantasy booking of Forbidden Door is like a tag match where Rush tags with the other Ingobernable guys, kind of a thing. And I think that that's like it's a possibility now. It's not just like a fever dream at this point that something like that could happen.
Yeah.
um but yeah, I think that it's a positive for wrestling, if at least to move in the direction of like, yeah, these guys are not AAA guys at all anymore. Like, be chill. I think that it's a positive. And like as you were saying with the New Japan relationship, some people thought this year that it was going to get frosty because of AEW taking a bunch of New Japan talent like Okada and like Will Ospreay and signing them, but it seems like it's extremely strong partnership. That last week Tanahashi was going through the notes of they had like a press conference for New Japan, and they were going over like, here are long-term plans, and two of the bullet points were strengthen the relationship with Stardom, strengthen the relationship with AEW, and they want to make sure that they're not looked as like the little brother brand. And I feel like the way that like in the post show press conference for Double or Nothing, where Tanahashi just sitting there right with Tony Khan the entire time, even though it's like, oh yeah, kayfabe's like being his bodyguard. It's like, no, they're like showing that even though the main event for Forbidden Doors to AEW guys, they're showing that this is like a partnership of equals still. So I think it's healthy. I think things are going well with those things, and I hope that as WWE tries to develop their own sphere of influence, that they take some cues from all of this.
Yeah,
I hope.
I think so too. All right. So with that, I think we're good for the week.
Yeah, I think that is all for this week of WrestleWatch. Please like, subscribe, do all the button clicks, of course. Anything you're looking forward to this coming week, Doug?
Let's see, this week. Not particularly.
Okay.
I think I'm ready to get to Forbidden Door.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
then I am looking forward to listen, it's summer. I'm probably
mm,
gonna go to the beach.
yeah.
That's what I'll probably do this week.
Well, I'm gonna watch Dominion, probably not at 3 a.m. local time. I'm gonna probably watch it sometime tomorrow. Uh, and watch hopefully Evil beat John Moxley, because that's
I
what we all want to see.
I don't discount it. I think there's a good chance that that happens. I really
I,
do. I
I mean,
really,
hey,
really do.
everything is evil, and
Yeah.
once you accept that, life gets a lot better. I can't wait for Evil and Okada to tag team. You know,
The evil in the elite.
yeah,
That's what the universe is asking for.
we need that scapegoat short bus to roll up, and just to have Evil and everybody else like pile out of it and be like, yeah, we're now friends with Okada.
No, I'll tell you what we really need. We need Jericho pulling up and Evil now becoming a branch of the learning tree.
Hey guys, yeah. So this house is really good. It has sturdy foundation. You're gonna love it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we got to do.
Oh my God, that would work so well.
It
It's
would.
like these guys aren't cheating. They just know the rules better than everybody else.
All right. So with
All
that,
right.
then, thank you very much, everybody, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right. Take care, everyone.